London AIM-listed Sirius Petroleum, which has oil and gas exploration and development projects in Nigeria, where its focus is the 40% owned Ororo field. It's an area originally operated by Chevron. Chevron drilled one hole at Ororo 1 with some interesting results, and Ororo 2 is expected to be spudded soon by Sirius. Bobo Kuti joins us now. He's Chief Executive of the company. Welcome. It's good to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Interesting story. I know you've been at the company a while. First of all, the history, if we can, of Sirius and this Ororo field originally operated by Chevron.
Yeah, well, I mean, Sirius was set up to focus on targeting the proven offshore opportunities in Nigeria. These are discoveries which were made back in the late 1980s as a result of license obligations by the majors. So, you know, there was a number of fields that were flow tested, produced oil to surface, but they weren't put into full field production. So what we're doing, we're capitalizing on that previous work, in addition to the beneficial fiscal regimes that the Nigerian government places on these indigenous projects to get them into production.
Why didn't Chevron persist with it?
In 1986, when these discoveries were made, the oil price was sub $10 per barrel. You know, the technology to extract these more marginal type assets perhaps wasn't even there. So they only focused on the biggest discoveries that they encountered and left, you know, a lot of these fields not put into full field production. There's about 120 of these type of assets around in Nigeria.
Okay, so you've got the Ororo field, and you've now got a rig which is moving on to drill number 2.
Yes, we've got the Adriatic 1, which is a shelf drilling rig. They're an international company, very reputable, get the job done. So we're going to be using that rig in Q4 later this year to drill Ororo 2, the first well as part of our campaign, which will be targeting the existing sands that were encountered and flow tested to surface. So the first production one will be on the G sand, which is the deepest sand, which flowed 2,200 barrels per day previously.
That has come out of the CPR, hasn't it?
Correct. So the CPR actually estimates that the initial production will start at 2,700 barrels per day, going up for a little bit, and then starting to plateau and tail off. So that's what we'll be targeting.
Assuming the rig comes on, it all works fine, and you get that part of the process underway, and it all does what you expect it to do, what happens then before you get to that 2,000 odd barrels a day? So
it's completed on the G sand. Then the hydrocarbons flow to surface. We get a jack-up barge, which is a lift boat, which will house the production testing equipment. That goes adjacent to the well, and then there's flow lines that go to the jack-up barge and the production facilities for it to be exported to a nearby FSO, which is located about 15 kilometers from the Ororo field. So we'll be exporting it with BP as the off-taker, who also provided a $10 million prepayment facility.
Right, it took you 60 seconds to say all that. How long is it going to take, actually, in terms of diary events, to get to that point?
So each campaign is going to take 45 days. So the Ororo 2 well will take 45 days. The Ororo 3 well is estimated to take just under 45 days. So the whole work program is about 90 days.
Do you have any idea yet then as to when production is actually due to start? I mean, your best guess, and obviously there are all sorts of unknowns to be encountered doubtless along the way. What do you hope for?
Well, I mean, you mentioned unknowns. We actually know a lot about the reservoir. We have a lot of the data, the pressure regime. We know what it flow tested at. So with that respect, the subsurface, we have a good deal of knowledge. But in terms of production, it's going to go immediately onto production after that 45-day oil campaign. So we expect to be producing on the Ororo field very early next year.
Okay, fine. And I think at the 6 months, you had something just sub 1 million cash on the balance sheet. Yeah. Is that going to be enough to take you through, or are you going to have to raise more?
So it's public that we've been working to close a securitization structure, which are issuing senior secured loan notes to fund the full field development of the Ororo field. So not only the first 2 wells, but the full field development invested in infrastructure, pipelines to monetize the gas resources as well.
Yeah. We haven't spoken about the economics of all this. You spoke a little bit about the fact that why Chevron didn't want to do it at $10 a barrel. That's understandable. Obviously, costs have gone up in that time since Chevron established the well back in the 80s. What sort of margins are you likely to be making at current levels in terms of the share of oil prices around about $65 a barrel?
Yeah, I mean, the CPR shows that at $27 per barrel, we are NPV positive. So at these levels today, $73, we're in a very good region. You know, when we released the CPR, it was based on a $50 oil price. So we've got the benefit of having locked in the service providers at lower prices, but it's a very good time to be drilling in this environment.
Yeah. So looking at share price, this is going back since the beginning of the year, when shares were just around about 0.8. They're now 0.75. What do you say to investors about those long-term supporters of your ideals and those that are looking to get in now? What do you say to them about this share price and where it's likely to be, or where it should be, when you're drilling at the rate the CPR says you will be, or producing oil, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a sort of high growth period right now. We're just about to commence drilling operations, start production. The oil price is benefiting as well, and what we're also doing is, because of the operational partners that we've got, Shelf Drilling, Schlumberger, and Add Energy, there's actually a number of other opportunities which are available in the vicinity that will look to bring that consortium and continue the campaign going. So 0.75 even at the the CPR level is undervalued. So we'd expect to get significantly higher following production, and hopefully through additional assets being added to the portfolio.
You mentioned Nigeria as well, being a place where, I mean, it's obviously a nation which is based pretty much on the oil industry, or certainly a lot of it is. What is it like to operate there as a company?
Well, there is, you've got to mitigate the risk as much as possible. So our focus is on those states which is adjacent to Lagos State. It's not in the sort of heartland of the Niger Delta. So we have very strict, health and safety policies. We always prefer offshore, offshore shallow water, because that way we can control the infrastructure and the marketing of the hydrocarbons, whereas operating onshore, you've got to tie into some of the majors pipelines like Forcados, which can have some significant downtime. But what we're doing is eliminating that risk, making sure we're offshore and using our own FSO export routes so we can control as much of the process as possible.
Yeah, okay, so from here, let's just quickly wrap up and ask a little bit about some of the milestones to watch out for. I'd like to have you back in the hot seat here to talk about those when it comes along, but just explain when you're back and what you'll be talking about.
Well, when I'm back, we'll be talking about the first hydrocarbons flowing to surface, the first loadings, and BP paying us our first revenue, which would be fantastic. And hopefully, what we do hope is that there are some other consolidation of shallow offshore assets and potential acquisitions that might be on the horizon that we can bring in to bolster the reserves and resources and continue our strategy. Okay,
well look, Bobo, it's an interesting story. Thanks indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much.
With this look at Sirius Petroleum and the activities going in there with hope for oil production sometime in the future. That's Bobo Kuti, the Chief Executive of the company.